Hi, today we're going to make some blueberry muffins with a crumb topping. So let's get started. I have a digital recipe, so I'm sorry I'm going to be using my computer. This is a great way for students to be able to take our recipes home and recreate them for their families. And it also provides learners who need some support in reading the recipe. They could use Google Read and Write. So right now we're going to focus on our mise en place. So I've already set everything up. I have 1.5 cups of flour for my muffin recipe. I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of containers here. I have 3/4 cup of white sugar. I have 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. In this case, we're using olive oil. And I have 1/3 cup of milk measured out. And then our leavening agent today is going to be baking powder. And I have 2 teaspoons here. I have an egg and some blueberries. And then I have a crumb topping over here that we're going to incorporate in here. So I have white sugar. I have flour, 1/3 cup, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and I have butter, but we want to keep it really nice and cold, so it's in the fridge. We have a 1/4 cup, and it's cubed. So the first thing I'm going to do is gather my ingredients, which I've done. Then I'm going to put my muffin liners in. This recipe says that it makes 8 muffins. Large muffins, so I'm going to see if I can make 12 because I have some people coming over tomorrow and I think that this would be a great thing to share with them. So I'm going to take a bowl with my whisk. I've got my whisk, I've got a spatula, and for my crumb topping I have a fork and another bowl. So I'm going to incorporate two different containers. So this is my dry measurement right now. So I'm going to add my 1.5 cups of flour. I'm going to add my 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add 1/3 cup of sugar, white sugar. It's important to recognize in a recipe if it's calling for white sugar or brown sugar. I'm going to keep everything organized as I go. I'm actually using one of the containers as my scrap bin. I'm going to add my leavening agent, my baking powder. That's what makes everything kind of rise. The muffins rise to the top. And then in the other bowl, I'm going to combine my wet ingredients. So here's my wet ingredients. I've got my 1 egg. It doesn't ask me to whisk it. It just asks me to put it in the container. So first thing I'm going to do actually is whisk this together. So we use a whisk so we can really combine all those ingredients. We don't want lumps of things in our dry ingredients. And this is how that looks. I really like this container because it has a spout and a handle. So we'll put that aside. Then we're going to get out our wet ingredients. In baking, we want to keep wet and dry ingredients separated. So I'm going to use my egg. And I'm going to crack it into this bowl, just in case I have some shells. Remember, if I have shells, I'm going to scoop them out with the other part of the shell. They attract each other. So I'm going to put that in this measuring cup. And then again, I'm just going to use this as my scrap. I'm going to add in my milk and my oil. So I'm going to use my whisk in this little container and whisk this all together. It's all incorporated nicely. And then I like to keep everything really clean. I'm fortunate I have my sink right here. If I didn't, I would put this upside down into my bowl here, but I'm just going to put that into my sink. So then I have my wet and my dry. So I'm going to add my wet ingredients into my dry ingredients. And then I'm just going to mix this with my spatula until it's combined. So my blueberries were frozen, so I've let them sit on the counter so they thaw out. So it'll take a bit to combine this. When I fold, I'm just using my spatula to mix this around. I want to make sure that I'm getting everything from the bottom to the top. You could add different fruit. If you're not a blueberry fan, you could always add a little bit of different kind of fruit in here. And then I'm going to add my blueberries. And it's a cup of blueberries. I can go into my scrap bin. And, oh, actually, I'm going to add bring out my butter. It's chilled. So this is all incorporating really nicely together. It turns a little bit blue. Because the blueberries. Oops. So I'm going to need my whisk again, so I'm just going to keep that out. I like my station to be really nice and clean. So that's our blueberry mix. This is my favorite scoop up here for pancakes, actually almost anything. All right, then the topping. So I'm going to combine my sugar, my half a cup of sugar. So this topping goes on top of the muffins. I'm going to add my flour in here. And then I'm actually going to add the butter. Oh, sorry, the cinnamon too. And then we'll use our fork to combine this. So the idea with the butter being cubed is so I can use that and just use my fork to kind of mash it into this mixture. It'll make like a really nice crumble top. It'll be a bit sweet, really complement the ingredients. I'm going to add all of this cubed up butter. So this is how it starts. It's cubes. And then I'm going to use my fork. I'm going to mash it into here. But I'm not going to over mix it. I want pieces of that butter to be still sitting in here. So I have my oven preheated at 400 degrees. I'm going to fill up my muffin cups, put the strudel on top, and then we'll see the finished product. See you soon. Hey, welcome back. So we talked about before that I was going to try and make this into some smaller muffins, but we have 8 exact muffins. That's what the yield was. So yield means that's what the recipe called for. So I have my streusel topping now. And how this works is I'm going to mound this on top of my muffins. Getting a little bit of butter, a little bit of everything on top of all of them. And then I'm going to put them in the oven. And they bake for about 20 minutes. So muffin tins can be different sizes. Eggs can be different sizes. So this recipe had said also to use that measuring cup and make sure that it got to a 1 cup measurement, which it did. But if eggs are smaller, you might have to add some milk, so some more milk, so it would have been at the right consistency. So I'm going to keep putting the streusel topping on. And then I'll put them in the oven. They're gonna be delicious, I think. And this is how they look before they go in. So there's that topping on top of them. So I'm just about to take our muffins out of the oven, and they look fantastic. That's how they turned out. The only thing I'm going to say, though, is every oven is a little bit different. So a way that we can safeguard this is I can use a wooden skewer or a toothpick, and I can stick this in the center, and it should come out clean like that. If there was any batter on the outside, I would know that the muffins in the middle are not done. So I always have to check the middle. So here's our finished muffins.